Namaste. Welcome to Sipping on Stories podcast. I'm your host Sehereen, and this is where we welcome women healers and spiritual leaders from all around the world to come and share their journeys and their experiences. Thank you so much, everyone, for showing lots of love to our podcast episodes. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. Please like and subscribe to this channel so we can continue spreading some love. Thank you. Namaste, Jessi. Welcome to Sipping on Stories podcast. I am so happy to have you here today. First of all, tell us where you're joining us from.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here as well. I am coming from Albuquerque, New Mexico in the United States.
Awesome. What is it like to live in Albuquerque?
Well, I'm new to here. I've been in the area for about 2 months and I am falling in love with it. It is so beautiful. The weather is perfect. There's no natural hazards, no tornadoes or earthquakes or tsunamis, and it is paradise.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm so glad that you're loving the place.
Me
Thank you
too.
so much again for sharing that. And Jessi, when we connected a few weeks ago, and when we talked about this amazing book that you've written, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. And a lot of things there's a lot of things running in my mind because of my personal experiences with people I've known who have had several, addictions in the past. It's not only smoking, but, several different kinds of addiction. And I started thinking about it very deeply. And I thought that this episode will be one of those informative and maybe inspiring episodes where we bring your personal journey of where you've gone through the addiction journey and you've quit. And you have written this amazing book to help other people realize what it is to, quit and where they're at. And I think it's really a blessing. So with that, could you please share your personal journey with addiction and how it shaped your perspective on, smoking?
Right. So I fell into addiction pretty young. I was about 13 years old and just wanted to, have fun with my friends, try something new. I was kind of looking for a sense of identity at that time, being young and community. I had seen everybody, the adults around me smoking and drinking and partying. And so I was very excited to become an adult myself and join in that. And went in pretty hard right off the bat. Kind of became a priority for me and started losing some of the hobbies that I had had before then. Became kind of like my main activity, if you will. But I also was really determined to be successful. And there was a lot of pressure on me for that, for earning my worth and showing that, I had the, um, that I could be successful and have, support with that, my family. So I studied really hard in school. That was a huge priority for me as well. So and they kind of went hand in hand. So I'd work really hard and then I would smoke a lot. So I was always smoking when I was working. They became really tied together. The harder I worked, it seemed like the more I smoked. And I was really successful in school, was getting scholarships, top of my class, ended up going into college. And, externally looks like I'm doing really well and really bright, but internally I was actually really struggling. I had a lot of negative self-talk and was very harsh on myself. And, I ended up, drinking quite a bit in college too, and just kind of got lost into this scientific dogma where I was like learning in school and coming into these beliefs that, the world is completely random and that as humans, we don't really have a unique purpose or a meaning. And so I kind of fell into this nihilist perspective where it's like, oh, nothing matters anyway. And so that made it really easy for me to continue hurting myself. And then I also had this other side that, oh, nothing matters, so I might as well just pursue pleasure. And I was kind of avoiding any pain, emotional pain and physical pain. So that's why I was kind of like self-medicating is what they call it, just trying to like numb myself to any of the problems I was going through, these stressors I was having to perform.
Yeah.
And so I continued this like well into my after college into my 20s and went into a career that was really high pressure. Um, like millions of dollars on the line. I worked in land survey, so if you a lot of number crunching and analysis, and if you make one little mistake, it's very costly. So was smoking on the job there and all that, and then uh, just by happen chance, I was invited to a lecture, and I thought I was going into an academic lecture, and it turns out that's not what it was at all. It was a mythic storytelling, and we started the presentation by singing. And right off the bat, the speaker, his name's Michael Mead, he's telling us that we have a soul. And something in me just cracked open with that. I was like, wow, like I like this idea a lot, that I have worth, that I have value, that I was here for a unique purpose. And it just felt like the truth. I had been exposed to some religion before then that just didn't feel right for me, but this felt right. And so I started to get more into these ideas and develop this sense of self and really started paying attention and realized I was having this negative self-talk. I think before then I was just kind of an autopilot, just
Mm,
working hard and distracting myself constantly. So I hadn't really gotten the time to know myself, to understand myself, and then to have compassion, forgiveness, and open up to new possibilities and potential. So that was a huge shift for me. And once I started going down that path, I was able to start changing my beliefs and ultimately give up smoking without missing it at all.
mm. Yeah, very interesting. It is like not a coincidence, I think you were meant to do this, and the way you were going into thinking you were going to an academic lecture turned out to be
Yes.
a spiritual one. So that's an interesting thing that you mentioned there. So when you were sitting in that lecture, listening to this, sometimes I do, some people, you had a choice to be like, oh, this is rubbish and walk out, but you didn't. And something that clicked. So when you were sitting there, you're like, and the speaker telling you that you have a soul. So what did you like, did you go back and kind of research on what this is about and what kind of research can it led you into, and then writing the book, of course, and in your own words, how would you kind of define what a soul is, when you were going through all this, just awakening of knowing that, yeah, this is a possibility as well.
Right. So I started with the myths, reading myths, and that really helped me understand psychology and the depth of the human condition, that there is so much more to life than paying bills and organizing and checklists, that we have a deep, deep, deep wealth of knowledge that goes throughout human history. Um, and just this idea of the other world just being present right there with us, that our ancestors are supporting us, and that there are messages for us. Like you said, that lecture, just me being there in the right place at the right time, and it feels like things can align. And that, I started looking back at my life and realizing how many doors had just opened for me, that there's something guiding me beyond scientific explanation. And um, really started understanding my intuition as well and using that to guide me, and just having so much more peace and understanding of myself and what was right, instead of being like using my mind and being overwhelmed by all these conflicting opinions and information. And so I guess just being able to explore myself and using the myths to kind of understand some of the basic ideas. I mean, I guess they're not basic, they're actually pretty complex. Just that, that we have different parts of us, and these parts aren't necessarily bad or good, but they create wholeness within us. So I started to understand that I had, inner gold within me, something of value, something that's amazing and bright and brilliant, but there's also darkness,
Mm.
and kind of understanding that there can be um, two things together to help create a picture of wholeness. So like light and dark, like you cannot have one without the other. And there
Yeah.
was always a little bit interplay there. And so that helped me really come to terms with like my addiction that, okay, this is part of my shadow. This is the part of the darkness. And then finding that inner goal to help shine a light on those and accept myself, come to grow to accept things in myself.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, I'm still on this journey. It's an ongoing thing. There's always
yeah,
more depth to
yeah,
go.
yeah, absolutely. I can imagine, and I can imagine what kind of emotional roller coaster you would have might have been on during taking this journey. So, what were the most challenging emotional hurdles you faced during the journey of quitting? And the reason I ask this is because it's different for different people, but in so many ways we are same. And I want your journey to be inspiring for others, and so they can find a ray of hope for quitting any sort of addiction they might be into.
Right. So I think I was avoiding emotions, period. I didn't want to face some of the sadness I had in my life, the anger I had in my life, because somewhere along the lines I had learned that these were bad. And so I was always kind of pushing them away and just trying to like numb out those emotions. And what surprised me the most, I guess, and was the most difficult to face was the amount of self-hatred that I had for myself.
Mm.
And I think that, I was just kind of going through life and just, like I said, on autopilot, just doing my thing and not really paying attention to how harsh and critical my thoughts were. And that every time I had an emotion of self-hatred or a feeling or thought, I would want to smoke. And so I was able to make that link right off the bat. So I'm like, okay, cravings mean I'm being cruel to myself. And so if I can stop that and be kind to myself in place of that, then I won't have cravings. I won't want to smoke. And it's absolutely true. So I worked on that, but it was very hard for me to come into self-love to kind of counteract that. And so the first time, I had that thought, I was actually in a meditation and we were doing a love meditation where it's like, okay, you send love and forgiveness to others, for someone that you love, that's easy to love, that you just naturally are attracted to and want to be around and enjoy. And then, okay, send love to someone maybe you have difficulty with, that you have disagreement with. And then lastly, send love to yourself. And like when we got to that last part, I was like absolutely furious. I was like, no way. I don't love myself. Like I was crying in the meditation. I'm like, okay, this is like a deep thing I'm unearthing here. So that was kind of hard for me to just go through that, but I just kept at it daily, just sending myself love, sending myself love. And then I found that it just opened me up. It was like an expansion where I was like, okay, like I am worthy of love. There's so much goodness within me, and even the parts of myself that I dislike, I can grow to accept
Yeah.
and see that as part of who I am instead of something that to be ashamed of or hate myself for.
Wow. It's a very difficult journey to take, and what you've just explained is not easy. And I'm glad and grateful that you went past that and you're at this point today. So congratulations on that. So
Thank you.
in kind of when I think about in your book, I mean, of course, I don't want you to give away too much, but what is unique about the method you present in Honor Your Heart compared to other stop smoking programs that may exist?
Yes, I'm very happy to share about it because I've basically written this book for the older version of me, the things, the information I wish I'd had, the tools I wish I had had earlier. Um, I am grateful that, everything worked out the way it needed to. It couldn't be another way, or I wouldn't be where I am and who I am.
Mm.
But um, I really struggled when I was quitting smoking, having a lot of shame and guilt and fear from the doctors, especially. I just felt like it was always treating the smoking as the problem and not looking at the emotional factors of what drives people to smoke and
Yeah.
the spiritual needs that they have. And
Mm.
I understand that might not be the place for the doctors, but it's just they come from a place of the mind and from logic and reason. It's like, don't you
Yeah.
know this is bad for you? This is going to ultimately kill you. And those kind of like long-term goals and numbers just never really reached me. It wasn't emotionally connecting to me. It had to be more relevant to me.
Mm.
And when I look at it from a physical standpoint, really it's the daily quality of life improvement that is the biggest motivator. It's like you don't have to wait 20 years to add 5 years to your life. You're going to breathe better within months. So I think that would be a wiser approach
Mm.
from if you're going to go the physical route. But my book really dives deep into the emotional attachment and the spiritual concepts that can help you understand who you are, what you need, and how you can fulfill your needs without smoking, because smoking is taking the place of a genuine need uh, that's way deeper than just getting a nicotine rush. I find that a lot of people they're looking for companionship. Obviously the response is to like loneliness, or they want to relax because they're having a reaction to their stress or anxiety. And so my book helps kind of sort out what is going on beneath the surface so that you're able to quit in a way that's lasting, first of all, and that is not so resistance. Like you're not just fighting the urge to smoke every day, like you genuinely don't want to smoke anymore because you have self-love and worth.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, this particular thing comes to mind as we talk about addiction. I've, I have been inclined spiritually for many, many years. I wouldn't say I know everything, I don't, but I've had several experiences personally from people I've known, family, friends, or even other events or spiritual events that I've attended. So you may be aware that yeah, we all are energy, of course, and we have this, beautiful aura around us, which is an extension of us in a way, that is energy. And you may find that people offer different kind of services where they get you to take photographs of your aura to show you what colors they are. And based on different colors, it means different things, which I'm not sure. But what I've heard is when someone is into addiction, be it alcohol, be it smoking, be it whatever, it punches holes in your aura and kind of weakens it. And then you get kind of susceptible to many negative things easily. And your soul just kind of goes, just goes down and down and down. So I think it kind of makes sense as why you feel so low when you are into, when you are addicted to something. And when you kind of come out of it and do the groundwork where you're fixing your soul, fixing your aura, and how it naturally will uplift you. So it totally makes sense. I'm not sure if there's something that you've heard, but I thought I will just add my 2 cents to it.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me, what I think might be going on too is that the pattern I've noticed and other people I know that have struggled with addiction is that it tends to be like seekers that wind up becoming addicted. Like they're kind of looking for something deep beyond
Mm,
that first level, like shallow material world. I think they're looking for an experience, a spiritual experience, and that's why they're reaching for something to take
yeah.
them beyond the mundane every day. And so, if they're able to recover and work through the addiction, then I mean, they're just all in for spiritual
Mm,
awakening.
mm,
That's what I've
yeah.
seen play out, at least in like my yoga groups. I found that a lot of people in yoga have been through an addiction. So
Mm,
I found that very interesting.
yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like there's a very strong community in it too. I used to feel like, oh, if I stop smoking, how am I going to have any friends? That's what, our main hobby, that's what we do. That's how I connect with people. But it's such a stronger bond to meet people that
Yeah.
have gone through the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. I resonate with that. And I felt, in a way, when I started working very early on in my life, I kind of felt that. I felt a bit lonely because we would have groups where, they would just get together because they smoke together. And I would feel a bit lonely because at work and I'm like, oh, I don't have many friends, and you can only make friends because you can smoke. Um, but I think it's a bit it's yeah, it kind of does that to you. And um, but I think if you're right in your head, you would. probably, or if you're aligned, I think, to your soul, or to your higher self, it's definitely going to stop you going down that path. But I have definitely felt that feeling, and I totally know what that means, what you mean.
Yeah,
Ah, that's interesting, isn't it? It's so deep.
definitely.
It just, yeah, it just starts to, I just start thinking about it. So interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I think people come into smoking because they're looking for that sense of belonging. I know
Yeah.
that I was when I look back, and now I can kind of understand it when I think about it mythically or
Mm.
spiritually, that I was really looking for initiation. I
Yeah.
wanted to be a part of something.
Yeah.
And in the States, we really don't have that kind of practice here. It's like high school prom, maybe. We don't have that entry into adulthood and into community, knowing what your place is and knowing that you're valued and appreciated. So
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's something missing, and we could totally, but I just wish that there is some sort of education that's imparted more on a spiritual level early on. That will definitely, help the younger generation as they're growing up. I guess that's,
absolutely.
yeah, I think as we kind of even go into the age of, it's so digital these days. And the kids are just into their phones, everyone's looking at their phones. And so, I mean, so am I. Sometimes I'm just like scrolling through and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Yes.
So it's sort of an addiction also, I feel, is you just like just aimlessly scrolling. Um, and I feel like there need to be like some sort of kind of push that we can incorporate for the younger generation where they can get out and experience more things.
Yeah, I feel like even the phone addiction, it's the same kind of idea. It's like a sense of belonging and
Yeah,
community, and you're kind of looking for to be seen on there, and you're looking to connect with others. So
yeah, yeah. But yeah, addiction can come in so many forms, I think, and I'm sure you can apply the same kind of practices and tools to those kind of addictions as well, I'm sure.
absolutely. When I wrote my book specifically about smoking cigarettes, but it applies to any addiction,
Yeah.
I think.
Awesome. And Jessi, you mentioned, you know, if you were wondering if you had the right tools earlier that could have changed your path. So, what advice would you give to young people to prevent addiction before it actually starts?
That it's okay to be yourself. I think that's maybe one of the hardest things that I had to do is fight who I really was with trying to gain acceptance and love from others. I was looking for external validation and was so unhappy down that path that I ended up hurting myself, hating myself. And I think that if you can just try to be yourself, it takes a lot of bravery and courage, and it seems like it can be impossible at times, but I've gone through this whole cycle and just wish that I had stuck with who I was from the beginning. And we all have to do certain things to get by in society. It's pretty difficult just to be like, oh no, I'm not playing by any of these rules. I mean, we have to get by, but to not let it penetrate your heart and be try to be something that you're not. And the way that you can do that is by following that intuition. Your intuition will tell you this doesn't feel right. And so if you find yourself going down that path and to try and be getting acceptance, it's it's going to be a hard road to walk, and you'll live a much happier life full of peace and joy if you follow that intuition that leads you to what feels right, what lights
Mm,
you up.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And of course, you have gone through this journey yourself, of addiction and quitting it and being in the wonderful place you are now. So how would you say that it has impacted your life, and before and after kind of a thing? If you could give us a little just on that.
When I was smoking, I was really ashamed of it. I had a lot of guilt and thought it made me a bad person because I was making bad choices. So I had all these negative thoughts around it. And as I worked through addiction and came out of it, it was hard for me because I started having these glimpses of how great life is without smoking. And I was like, living in regret. I'm like, what have I done? I've wasted so much time. And so I kind of fell into that for a while.
Yeah.
But then I've gotten to a place now that I absolutely am thankful and grateful that I did smoke because it is part of who I am. And it has taught me so much about myself. I think that if I hadn't had this kind of spiritual crisis around my smoking addiction, then I wouldn't have been able to go through the initiation that I needed to leave behind childhood. It kind of became an initiation in itself.
Mm.
I think I was false when I thought I could, become an adult by smoking, but what really helped me become more of an adult is leaving it behind. And I just feel like it's given me the life that I've always wanted, and I have this ability now to connect and have empathy for those that are struggling.
Mm.
And so I'm thankful for that, that I can step out as a leader and share my experience and hopefully, have an impact in the world that way. And I just feel like I've moved into the next phase. I've become a mother now, since quitting, and feel like I can really show up as my best self for her.
Yeah, oh, that's so lovely. It's very nice to hear. Thank you for sharing that. And I guess I wanted to, ask you how has helping others quit smoking impacted your life personally? I'm pretty sure you've gone through, helping others through this. So how has that impacted your life?
It just feels right, like I said, with that intuition. It just feels like I'm doing the right thing, that like I'm living my purpose in a way. And um, I guess it's not, I kind of want to be careful with the helping others because I don't want to fall into like a charity mindset or that I know better, that I'm a guru or up and high, because I'm absolutely not. It's kind of more like a wounded healer situation where I still have things that I'm going through myself.
Yeah.
So when I work with other people, it helps me learn more. It helps me go deeper. And it's like a mutual kind of relationship. And yeah, it lights me up. I love connecting with others.
Yeah, that's very humbling. Thanks, Jesse. Um, with this platform, I always wish that people listening to this episode take away actionable insights that they can apply to their life at the very moment, starting from the ending of this episode. And that's my wish, that it is helpful for our listeners. So, with that in mind, I would love for you to maybe give us or give our listeners a little, tips and trick, or what is the first thing they can do to begin the journey in towards quitting smoking or quitting any addiction that they may have. This could be, women, men watching, or even younger generation watching. So, what is something they can take today and apply to their life straight away?
I would start with paying attention to the thoughts.
Mm.
I think it's so easy to get lost in ourselves and think that, the world is just the way that we see it, but it doesn't have to be that way at all, that we can actually change our thoughts. But first, we have to understand what they are. And it's not just a given that the world around you is the way that you think it is. So I would pay attention to the thoughts. And if you find yourself having a lot of negative thoughts or avoiding certain emotions or certain things, then that's the place that you want to go the most. Where you find the resistance is probably the place that you want to start, which is hard. It's hard to go there. The place I would start is by paying attention to your thoughts, uh, figuring out what's going on, what kind of patterns that keep coming up for you. A
Mm.
lot of us get caught into cycles of repetitive thoughts, and we just drive these things into ourselves day in and day out. So, what kind of things are you driving into your thought process here? Are they thoughts that lift you up, that make you feel good, or are they thoughts that bring you down and create emotional turmoil and hopelessness the way that I was kind of going through? So the thoughts are very, very important. And we live in a loud and busy, crazy modern world where everything is fast paced. So it's going to take some slowing down and paying attention. And you would be surprised by what comes up when you're quiet.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of, personally as well, that I've experienced, when you're quiet, that's when the real growth happens. You start understanding yourself better when you're quiet. So Absolutely. And that's, you've just literally, bang on. So thank you for that. And I would imagine that um, when wanting to quit, of course, there are other things available for you to help you, from a spiritual perspective, also from a physical perspective. People could be a part of groups so they can have that moral, emotional support, going through or having someone going through the same journey, feeling that they're not alone would definitely help. Would you agree?
Yeah, in some ways, but at the end of the day, you've got to do it yourself.
But do you
I
necessarily?
felt like yeah, I felt like I didn't necessarily have anyone going through it with me when I did it. It was kind of a solo journey, but I did have people that loved me,
Yeah,
that kept me encouraging. So that love helped me learn to love myself. That
yeah.
patience they had for me helped me to be patient with myself. Like I was able to kind of mirror the supportive goodness I.
You were saying that not necessarily in having someone to go through the journey with you, but having to you did it alone, and of course you had the love and support you needed of your loved ones. But I think for me it was also more like, do you have any kind of groups or will you be a part of, where people come together like, look, I want to do this. I want to listen to other people's stories. So give me some inspiration.
Yeah, so I'm on social media. I have a YouTube channel, TikTok, Instagram, and there's people in the comment section there that we can support each other.
Hmm.
But right now I kind of have my book out. That's kind of my main thing. I might move into coaching later down the road. But yeah, I think that's something that could be valuable as people gathering on the online space.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's amazing. And I think with this, I want to kind of move into the book itself and how you came about actually writing it and what was like in your mind, like, oh my God, I'm going to write this book. So give us a little, glimpses of a little gist on that. Yeah, and I'm also looking forward to reading it. So I'm definitely going to link it in the description for the listeners too.
Yeah, it was a big surprise for me. Like I said, I had invested a lot of time into college and into science and ended up leaving my very stressful job when I was pregnant. And fortunately, I was able to do that and started having a lot of more time to be myself, to explore myself, and just witnessing my daughter, just the world through her eyes. It's so beautiful. Her first experiences and her joy in the simple things. And it just really started inspiring me to be creative again. Like, what would it be like to take a new look at the world and to really pay attention more and slow down and started writing for fun like I used to in high school and hadn't done that forever. It had only been like essays and, papers and very, very formal things and just started kind of free writing. And so on that addiction kept coming up again and again and again that the the beauty of the pain I had been through and how much I had learned and came into gratitude through that experience just kept coming up. So I was like, maybe I should write this in a book. And so I
Hmm.
did.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. So, what is your vision for Honor Your Heart? And what do you hope readers take away from it?
I want to build a movement here where we can learn to care for ourselves and love ourselves again and leave behind these harmful habits and just really come into our authentic selves because I used to get overwhelmed by the troubles of the world and it would really get me down and make me feel like that, it was hopeless and there was nothing I could do and feel frustrated by that and angry. And then I realized that when each of us comes into our own and we're living our purpose and we're living our best lives, like that's how we change the world. It becomes a better place. So, like I said, I see this as a movement, like honor your heart can extend to anyone struggling with an addiction. And yeah, I think that we could all learn more from
Yep.
tapping into our heart as a resource and getting out of our heads.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Jessi. And I just wish that this reaches a lot of people so they can take away some amazing, valuable insights that you have just shared on this episode. And I really wish that it helps anyone listening to this episode, and makes, even if it makes a little difference in their life, I will be so happy and grateful, and for you, of course. But
Me
with this,
too. Thank you for this opportunity.
yeah, of course. And I think, well, sometimes it's so sad that we have to kind of, end this episode, but just because of time. But you've been amazing. Thank you for your time so, so much. I'm so grateful. And if you have any final message that you want to put out there for our listeners before we wrap, go for it.
Just that it can be done. It can be very difficult to change our behavior, to change our thoughts, but it is possible with practice, with time. And the greatest motivator you can find is love. You don't have to be hard on yourself. There's no drill sergeant. It just come with love, and you can find that patience, compassion to work through any block you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, love doesn't judge or have standards there. So yeah, it's peaceful. Thank you so much, Jessi, again, for coming on Sipping on Stories podcast. It was an amazing, amazing episode. I think very impactful, very powerful, and I wish that our listeners and viewers take away a lot from this.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great talking with you.
Thank you.